Hey folks, it's Tom at Frugal Prepper. I'm just going to do a quick video on how to get these wiTech MicroPod 2 clones for a Mopar to work. This is a cheap Chinese clone of one, and there's some really special stuff you got to do to kind of get it working, and I finally figured it out, so I figured I would do a video on it in case anybody else is interested. Hey folks, so what we're going to do is install the MicroPod 2. We're going to get DRB III running on it. We're going to get wiTech running on it. This is the cheap Chinese clone version of it. I will put a link to where I bought it down below. It does come with a DVD, and that DVD may or may not work. I downloaded my files from another source. I will put links to everywhere I downloaded the files from down below. We're going to set this up in a VMware workstation, which basically makes it a virtual machine. So I'm running a Windows 7 laptop. It's got the i7, 16 gigs of RAM or whatever, but I'm actually building a little virtual machine inside of it that's going to be running Windows 7 32-bit software, which is what you need to get this working. Now, it may work with Windows 10. It may work with Windows 7 64-bit. I don't know. I haven't tried it because I read that you need Windows 7 32-bit, so that's what I use. But I went through a lot of different like articles and stuff online, and none of them were working. And I finally found the solution that works, so I'm going to share it. So what you're going to want to do is just Google VMware workstation download, right? And then you're just going to go and see, it's like the second link here, VMware Workstation Player. That's what you want. I know it says player, but it actually does allow you to create virtual machines. And so you click download now, you run the setup, you click next a few times, it installs it, and you're set and you're ready to go. It's really simple. I've already installed it, so I'm not going to uninstall it and to reinstall it on here, but that's a really simple part. So here's my VMware workstation. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And you're going to see I have 3 virtual machines here. I have this Chrysler. That's the one that it's working on right now. And then I have a GM GDS2 and a Ford IDS one. But basically, we're going to just create a new one, and we're going to go through this from scratch. So basically, what you're going to do is come and hit this create new virtual machine, right? And so the installer is going to point to my Windows 7 ISO file. If you have Windows 7 on a DVD, you can map it. You can click installer disk and map the DVD that it's coming from on your particular laptop. I happen to have an ISO file. If you need a Windows 7 32-bit ISO file, find an IT guy that you know and ask him for one, or ask him for a DVD, or go Google it and you can find a DVD, right? And get that. But you're going to need the Windows 7 32-bit installation media. So I'm just going to go ahead and click next here. And it's going to ask me for the Windows key. I'm not going to put the key in now. We can put the key in later, right? And it's asking you if you want to personalize Windows or whatever. We don't really want to. And it says you didn't install a key. You want to continue? Yeah, we want to continue. And now it's going to come up here, virtual machine. And this, right now, I'm going to call this test VM. All right. And then we're going to say next. Now, we're going to make this a 250 gig drive. It's not actually going to use 250 gigs off of your computer. It's only going to use the space that it has to use. But it's going to present it to the Windows 7 like it's a 250 gig hard drive. And then we'll go ahead and click customize hardware here, because I want to bump this up to a 2 gig machine. It's up to you. It depends on how much RAM you have as to how much you can allocate to it. I think it'll work fine on 1 gig. It'd just be a little bit slower. And here we're going to click finish. So that's actually it. Although it then provisions the hard drive space and only uses what it needs, it actually does use that amount of RAM off of your system. So if you only have 4 gigs of RAM on your real computer that you're running VMware on, you better keep that at like 512 or 768 meg or maximum of a gigabyte. But if you have like 12 gigs or 16 gigs, then you can go ahead and bump that up to 4, you know. And 4 is all Windows 7 32-bit is going to be able to address and use anyway. So it's got like this help thing down here. We can close that. We don't need that. And basically it's going to start up the Windows setup here. And it's not even going to ask us how we want to provision our disks and all that, because it's all built into VMware's automated thing, I do believe. We'll see here, but I believe it is. So I believe it just comes up and starts installing it to that, 250 gig virtual drive. Yep, and so now it's going to copy the files and do everything, and then it's going to restart. Then after it restarts, we're going to have to install a Service Pack 1. We're going to have to install Service Pack 2. We're going to have to install a Windows Updater update, and then we can run the Windows updates from Windows Update. So that's going to take a long process, and this is going to be a long process. So I'll come back when we get to installing Service Pack 1. I will put links down below where you can download Service Pack 1 from Microsoft still. But basically, Windows 7 is so old that the updater won't even start to update it until you get it to at least Service Pack 2. So there's 3 updates you'll have to manually install, and then you can update it to the point that they stopped updating it like last year or whatever, right? And then after that, they don't offer any more updates unless you pay a special subscription or something, which that's fine. We just want to update it as much as we can. But this is going to be a machine that's going to be kind of isolated away from the internet. You're not going to log into your online banking on it. You're only going to use it for programming cars. So we're not too worried about the security things on that. So I will be back once this gets done. Okay, so now we have installed Windows, and Windows has restarted. It's coming up. It's asking us what kind of network we have. We just say work network here, and that lets it do everything. And now we can close this. And so now we have successfully installed Windows. Now we have to load the updates. I will put a link down below where you can download these updates. I'm going to pull them off of my network. And I have basically just this scratch folder out here on this network. And so here is the Windows 32-bit updates. And so the first one we're going to install is going to be Service Pack 1. And what I like to do is take and actually copy all of these over to the desktop, because they will install faster than going over your network. Again, you can download these files. You can put them on a thumb drive. And when you plug in your thumb drive, it'll ask if you want to map it to the host, and you can copy them over that way. Or you could actually go into the Internet Explorer here and go download them. So now we're going to install the Service Pack 1 right here. And there's 2 files in Service Pack 1. You want to run this one that's the big one, the 550 gig one. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and make this screen a little bit bigger. We'll take this up to 1280 by 800. We'll keep those changes. That way we can see things a little better here. And so now we're going to just go back to this Windows Service Pack 1. This one right here is 550 gigs. We're going to double click that one. And it's going to come up with this thing down here. You see it blinking? You're going to click on that and say, yes, we want to install it. And then say next. And basically, you're just going to let this sit here and crank away at installing this. We're going to click install, and it's going to go ahead and install it. So I will be back when this is done installing. I know it looks like it's going really fast here, but it's not. It's going to come back and go through this bar a few times. And then it'll finally have installed Service Pack 1. Okay, so now it has installed Service Pack 1. It's done its reboot thing, and it says Service Pack 1 is now installed. So now we have to go to our Service Pack 2, which is this one right here. Hang on. Oh, first we have to install this. This is the Windows Updater update. This is a small one, but basically this will update the Windows Updater. So that it can install Service Pack 2, or otherwise it won't be able to install Service Pack 2. So we'll let this one run. This one's a pretty quick one. We'll see how quick it is here. There we go. Say close. And that one does not make you reboot. So now we're ready to go and install the actual Service Pack 2. And basically it's just going to do the same thing here. First it's going to search for updates on the computer or whatever. I don't even know why it does that. Just load it. Okay, yes, we want to install that, and then it's going to copy the packages or whatever, and it should come up and ask us if we want to install it. Or maybe it's not. I think it's just going to go back. It's just going to go through and install it. So we'll install this. I believe it will reboot again, and then we're ready to start loading the Windows updates through the Windows Updater. Okay, so now we have installed the Service Pack 2. It's going to have us restart now. We're going to go ahead and click that and let it restart. It won't take it too long. Well, it's going to go through here and configure the updates. So I will be back once this is finished restarting. Okay, so we've reinstalled, or we've installed the Service Pack 2. It's restarted. Service Pack 2 is installed. Before we get to launching the Windows updates, this is where I like to install the VMware tools. But you're going to see, for some reason on Windows 7 32-bit, the install VMware tools is grayed out. And the solution to this problem, believe it or not, is to go remove the floppy drive. So we have to go here to Player, Manage, Virtual Machine Settings. And we have to go to this floppy drive. And basically we want to click the Remove button down here. And it's not going to let us do it while it's powered on. That's right. So now we have to take and do click your Start button, do a shutdown. And now let it shut down. We can go back here and reopen the VMware workstation. Then we can come to our test VM. We can go here and do Manage Virtual Machine Settings. And now we can click this floppy and we can hit Remove. And we can say OK. And now we can click the little play button here. We can click the test VM, click the play button, and that will power it back on and restart it. Really, we just want to make it kind of bigger. Oh, it automatically made it bigger. Okay. So now we have our virtual machine. And now we can click on the Player, Manage, and hit Install VMware Tools. Now if the floppy drive's gone, it will install them. And so it should come up with a pop-up here. You can close this help thing. If it doesn't come up with the pop-up, you can click the File Explorer and it'll just show up here as your DVD drive. Just double click that guy and hit yes, and now it's going to run them. Sometimes it pops up and auto runs, and sometimes it doesn't. And like you can click this little arrow button that's over here. You saw I popped that out earlier, and it'll kind of flash these. This is your simulated hard drive and your simulated CD, so you can see when there's activity on them. And so we're just going to do a typical install and say next, and say install, and let it go through here and install all these drivers. It's just going to take a few minutes here. Oh, there it goes. Finally. Start services, installing the network driver, which I don't know is something special about the VMware drivers, because normally, I mean, it has the network connectivity before we installed that, but it's doing a special thing, I guess. And then we'll click finish, and then we'll go ahead and tell it we want to restart. We'll let it restart. Okay, so now it's restarted, and now one of the things you'll notice that's pretty neat is you can make this screen any size you want by just clicking and dragging it now, and it automatically will resize it to be the size of the window. And gives you a message there or whatever. Oh, it logged it out for some reason. There we go. So now we're ready to go ahead and load our Windows updates. So we're going to go to Control Panel. And I like to take this category button and drop that down to the small icons. And then come down here and double click on this Windows Update. And we're going to turn on automatic updates. And it's going to go out and it's going to check for updates. So we'll let it check for updates, and then we'll be back here in just a minute. While this is checking for updates, I'm going to talk a little bit about these devices. You will see that they will sell them to you with a hard drive that's already pre-installed, right? And the problem with that is you slide that hard drive into a laptop that will accept a hard drive. A lot of laptops today take SSD, PCIe cards. So you'll slide them into a laptop, but then none of the drivers will be right. Nothing. So you're going to have to mess with drivers and video drivers and disk drivers and network drivers and getting all that to work. And then you end up with this really hacked up installation of Windows 7. And it's full of viruses and Trojans and all kinds of spyware that's on it. So for the love of God, if you do that, don't use that laptop to do your online banking or anything, right? And then if you try to clone that image into a virtual image, which you can do, a lot of times stuff just quits working on it. The other thing is that it'll be set for Chinese as its default language. And Windows 7 doesn't switching languages real well. So a lot of the installs and stuff, when you go to do it, it'll be in Chinese, right? And you really don't want to do that process. You're better off to just install this stuff yourself on a nice, clean copy of Windows 7 that's not all infected. I don't know why the Chinese people don't do that. It would be better just to not send people viruses, to be upfront and honest, but they install the viruses on that stuff like crazy. So just be aware of that. Okay, so now it's come back and check for the updates. We have 54 important updates, so we're just going to install those, and we're going to accept the license terms and all that. And we're just going to give it plenty of time to install these updates, and we'll check again once it restarts. There'll be a few times at least that it's going to find updates, and we're just going to keep updating and downloading and installing. Okay, so this is pretty typical. We see it installed 48 updates. It failed on 6 of them. Those will probably install the next time around. We'll just go ahead and restart it. We'll hit restart now. It's probably going to come up and install some more updates while it's shutting down here. And then it'll do its thing. Sometimes it'll come up with this. Sometimes you can wait and it'll do it, but if not, you can just hit force restart and say yes. Sometimes stuff hangs up on the updates. It'll log us off. Maybe. There we go. And now it's going to configure all these updates and stuff. And then when it boots back up, it'll probably configure them some more, and then it'll come back to the desktop. Okay, so now we're back at the desktop. And now we're going to go out here to Control Panel. And we're going to go to Windows Update. Gonna give it a minute. Come on. It's thinking. There we go. Yeah, it's got one important update. We'll go ahead and install that. And we'll let that install, and then we'll be back. Okay, so now it installed that update. It says they're successfully installed. It's not asking us to restart. Now we're going to hit check for updates again. And it's going to probably go and find some more of them, and we'll install those. Okay, so now it's found 10 more important updates. We're just going to click install. We're going to let it download them and install them. And it'll probably restart again, and then we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to come back in. We're going to check for updates again. We're going to see when it gets done installing it, it'll say there's no updates found. All right, so now it succeeded installing them. It wants to restart, so we're going to click restart now. Let it restart here. We'll see how long it takes to restart. Again, the Windows task host window. We'll just go ahead and hit force restart and say yes. It likes to do that sometimes, especially when you're doing updates. Go Windows 7. All right, it's going to configure these, so I'll be back when this is restarted. Okay, now it comes up with Windows 7 PC is out of support and it's come to an end, blah, 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 blah. Just hit don't remind me again. Yeah, we don't care. Don't remind me again. Okay, now we're going to go and load the rest of the updates that we can find. We're getting close to the end. There's one update available. We'll install that. And that one should probably be a pretty quick one. Although it's got to create this restore point thing, which takes a little while. Okay, I installed that. It did not make me restart. It says there are more updates available. Review optional updates. We don't care about the optional updates, but we want to hit check for updates again. Make sure there's not any more important updates that we need to load. So we'll let this go, and then I'll be back. Okay, it's got 2 more important updates. We're going to install those. And it's going to download them and install them. And we'll see if it makes us restart. I got a couple other computers in there loading updates too, so it's taking it a little longer to download. But we'll let this run, and then I'll be back. Okay, successfully installed those 2. So now we're going to check for updates again. And we're just going to keep going through this process here until it doesn't find any more updates. All right, so now we're set up. We have no more important updates available. Sweet, finally. Okay, so Now we're ready to start installing. Now you can go and download these files from the links below. Again, I have them on my network, so I'm going to copy them from there. And so I have this Adobe Air. This is just some quick install instructions. I will paste these maybe into the comments or into the description below. But those are just some rough instructions for my reference. But the first thing we need to do is we need to install the Adobe Air. And there is a link to my Dropbox to download this, because good luck finding it out there on the internet anywhere, because Adobe has discontinued Air and this is a very old version. So we'll double click that, we'll run it, we'll agree, and we'll say yes to install it, and we'll say finish. And that's all we have to do. If it does come up and ask us if we want to update it at any point, we want to cancel it. We do not want to update. Yeah, see, it's going to say update now, update later. Do not update Adobe Air. Right? And I don't believe there's a way on Adobe Air to tell it not to load up, not to check for updates, but just tell it update later. Because the latest version won't work with the wiTech software that we're about to install. And so now we've done that. I'll just double check my install instructions. Yep, so now we're ready to install the wiTech. And so we'll go ahead and install this. Again, there's a link to download this in the description down below. And this is a pretty big file. It probably would have been a good idea to copy this off the network rather than run it from the network, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Okay, that's my password for the network share. And so the reason it came up and asked me for that password again, this is just how this works, is when it came up and asked me if I wanted to run it, I clicked yes. It made me a system administrator with privileges to install programs instead of my regular user. And then the administrator account didn't have a password to that network share entered. So it needed a password again. That's what's actually going on in the background there. But so now we're just going to install. We see it's going to install this Java Edition 7 standard or update 25. That's the version of Java that this runs on. So don't update Java either if it asks you if you want to update it. So we're going to install it. I don't think this takes too terribly long to install. Now it's good. Now it's installed the C++, the Java, the Erlang thing, and now it's going to install the wiTech software. Now we're going to say next, and we're going to say we're in the United States, and we're going to say next. We're going to accept the license agreement. Say next, install. And this is going to take it a minute here to copy all this stuff and do it. And this will probably take considerably longer on a slower computer. I'm on a pretty fast computer. But if you have a really old laptop, you know, it might take you. It's going to take a good bit to get this done. You know, so my thing is, I used to run several older laptops, and I had different hard drives I'd swap out in them and everything else to run everything. But I found it's far better to get a really fast laptop with lots of storage and lots of RAM, and then virtualize everything. And then you only have one device that you're carrying around. So now we're going to click Finish. And we're going to allow access here to the network. Allow it access. Allow it access. Allow it access. Okay. And so now we have to go to the install folder to install our DRB3s. This is kind of weird, but you're going to want to go to the C:// go up here and type program data. All one word, because it's a hidden folder. But now it'll take us in there. And then we're going to go to the wiTech. Oh, I think it's the shared. Hang on, let me check my install notes. My install notes. Okay, it's under wiTech. Let's go back here to wiTech. It's under JServer, under Data Core Stubs. Here's our installers. So now we're just going to install these 1, 2, 3. But in between each one, it's going to ask us to do an update. And we're going to wait for it to ask us that, and then we're going to update it. So now we'll go ahead and install our DRB installer. And this is actually the not the one we're going to use, but it has to be installed anyway. We're actually going to use the enhanced one. So basically, the old DRB emulator stub, that's the one that works with the older VCI pods that had the Ethernet connection and stuff on them. The newer wiTech 2s or MicroPod 2s, they have to use the enhanced. So here we're going to load this DRB III emulator application update. We're going to install it. We're going to say next. And we're going to say OK. I'm going to say next. I'm going to say install. just click the options that make it work, basically. You know. Let's say finish. Okay, and then the updater closes. Now we're going to do the enhanced DRB stub. We're going to say next. We're going to accept it. We're going to say next. We're going to say install. We're going to say finish. Now we're going to give it a second and it should pop up and say, hey, you need to update. We're going to go ahead and click this and we're going to say install. You're going to say next. And we're going to say OK. We're going to say next. Say install. We say finish. Now the updater should close. It does. Now we're going to come to the KDA. This is what's called your K-line. It's your K-line installer. And so There's been a theory that some of these don't work because they don't have K-line in the MicroPod. They have K-line. It's just that people are trying to use them with the DRB stub installer instead of the enhanced DRB stub installer. And that's more on the USB connectivity side of it and how it sees the VCI from the computer than anything to do with the K-line and the OBD2 side of the connector. So accept the license agreement, say next, and say install. Now finish it. We're gonna wait for the updater. Wait for the updater. Or did the updater already come up? I don't think it did. If I remember right, it took it a minute to come up on this one the last time too. There is a program right here, software updates, that runs. And this runs in the background every so often and checks to see if anything needs updates. There it says that application stub, K-line diagnostic application stub has 1 update. Show all updates. There we go. Okay. So that's how you can force it to do an update, is to go to all programs and you'll see the software updates. And then you saw it popped up and said it had them. And then I went in there and I right clicked on this in the system tray and said show all updates. You want to install these updates one at a time. You don't want to install them all and then update them all at once for some reason. I did that the first time and it did not work right. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to say yes. We're going to allow it to do whatever it wants to do. So finish. Okay, so now our DRB is installed. And now we're ready to connect our wiTech. This is the program that we're going to run to get it connected. And here it's going to say, oh, do you want to update Adobe Air? No, we're going to cancel that. We don't want to update. So cancel those updates. Trust me, don't update the Adobe Air. And we see here it's not seeing a diagnostic module. Now, you can take it out, plug it into the USB right now, and it's still not going to see it because it has to be powered up by an OBD2 port for the other end that is the virtual network adapter and the actual VCI to be powered up. It will show a light on the USB, but it won't actually power up and connect. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to have to edit some special files and stuff to trick it to make it work and everything else. So we're going to take this out to the car now and work on it from there. I'm plugging this into a Buick. This is Chrysler software. It doesn't matter what kind of car you plug it into. It just has to be on an OBD2 port, getting the 12 volts on, I think it's pin 6 and 14, to power up the actual module. All right, so here I am in my Buick Lucerne. I've got my MicroPod, and we're going to take that, and we're going to plug it into the OBD2 port down here. Let me find it. There we go. We see it powers on. You do not have to turn the ignition on this car. Some cars you might have to, but this has power to the OBD2 port all the time. So now I've got my cable. My laptop only has the USB-C, so I got a little adapter on there. And so basically what you want to do now, I know this seems really weird, but it only works in this order, is you want to plug your USB cable into the laptop. So go ahead and get that plugged in there. All right, now we're going to go ahead and plug this into here. If I can get it in. Come on, get it in the hole, Thomas. Okay. And now it's going to come up here and it's going to ask us whether we want to connect this to the virtual machine or whatever. But I'll switch back over to the laptop and show you how that works. All right, so now we're over here. We're connected. Now, normally VMware will come up and ask you when you plug in a USB device, do you want to connect this to the host or do you want to connect this to the VM? It did not. So what you want to do is come here to removable devices, and you're going to see this one right here. It's called Ethernet Gadget. So you go to Player, Removable Devices, go to Ethernet Gadget, and you hit Connect. And it's going to disconnect it from the host computer, and now it's connecting it here. And it's going to install device drivers. All right. And so it installs these two right here, this Ethernet Brightstar and this Ethernet adapter. You're going to say, okay, work network, because it sees it as an Ethernet adapter for some reason. Boom. And now we see that it shows up here in the wiTech. And you're like, sweet, we got it working. And you click next. And it comes up and it says device with this serial number is not registered. So it knows that this is a fake serial number, right? And it's not going to work. So now here's how you get past this problem. So we'll go ahead and close this. And you'll see all kinds of things out there that tell you like, oh, well, what you want to do is keep closing the application, reopening it, and eventually it'll work, and just like all kinds of crazy stuff. But what you actually want to do is go to the wiTech diagnostic icon, right-click that guy, go to Properties. Then you're going to go to Open File Location. Okay, and so now what we're going to do is this app config file, we need to move that because this has rights assigned to the folder that won't let us save it. So now we're going to say provide administrator permission to continue to move the file. We're going to continue. Now we're going to open this file and we're going to right click it and hit edit because we want to edit the file. Now you're going to do a control F, defined, and we're going to search for a hash. And it's going to come down here to this verification hash. All right. You have a 5 here as your first number. Change it to any other number than a 5. So change it to 9. You're going to close this and you're going to save it. And now we're going to move that file back into this folder. We're going to provide administrator permission to move it. And now we're going to close this. Now we're going to open up our wiTech again. And it's going to come up with this registration required message before we even got to click next this time, right? And we're going to close that. And now we're going to click next. And it's going to connect. Now, I don't have an online account with Dealer Connect to actually download the software and stuff. So we're just going to say work offline. Oh, we're going to close this again. And then we're going to go work offline. We're going to say finish. And now if you had a Chrysler turned on right now, it would go connect to it. We don't have a Chrysler and we don't even have the ignition turned on. But this would be the software now that you'll use to go in and diagnose and work on 2011 or 2008 and newer Chryslers. So we're going to close that. And we're just going to close this. And that's it. So now how do we get to the DRB III software? Okay, so this has a link. I put the link in the description down below. But basically, you need to open this link through Internet Explorer. And you're going to want to leave Internet Explorer as your default browser. You're going to want to enable, it's going to ask if you want to enable the Java plugin. We want to enable that. And so we'll let that come up. Oh, yep. And so now what we want to do is go ahead and paste this link that I have. And this link will be in the description below. I'm going to go pull it off of my network. Maybe if I can get this to click. There we go. I'm going to go pull this, and we're going to say send my install instructions. And it's this big long link right here. We're going to copy that. We're going to paste that into Internet Explorer. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. And we're going to do a Control V to paste that. We're going to hit enter. And just say yes, use recommended settings. Oh, man. Please go away. Microsoft's giving me all those messages because it's the first time I've run Internet Explorer. But here we go. It pops this up as a Java application, and we have this. So we can click yes now. We can do DRB standalone. Hit enter. Click enter. And, you can go in here and do all your connections for your DB3. So now we can close all this. And what I'm going to do, it'll open up this wiTech whenever you close the DRB3. That's fine. You just close it just close it. And so now I'm going to go here, and we're going to go Control V and paste that back in there again, right? This time we're going to take this, and we're just going to click this blue E and drag it over. And now it's going to make a shortcut to it, I think. Maybe not. No, it made a shortcut to MSN. Hang on. Move that to recycle bin. Control V. Hit enter. Now it ran it. So now we can go here. And now we'll close this, and we'll make sure our link works, our shortcut here to localhost. It's going to open the wiTech again. We're going to have to close that. And the reason it does this is because normally wiTech will have a button down here that says use DRB and opens it for you, but this version does not. So you have to go. So when you close DRB, it wants to take you back to this, right? Because you launch it from that screen. And now we'll just open that. And we can go ahead and click turn on internet settings or whatever. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. And it opens the DRB III. And so now what I'll do, we'll wait for this to open up the wiTech again. Maybe, yeah, there it goes. Close that. Now what I'll do is just call this DRB III. And then I got that shortcut there. And it launches the DRB III. Yeah, I don't know if you can make this bigger or not. I think you can. No, I guess that's as big as it gets. You can definitely make the screen full size here, though. That helps a little. But yeah, you can go through here and do all your DRB III stuff now. Oh, I had to hit yes. And then You can go down different things. Yeah, vehicle flash, legacy support. Some of these are not available in here. So you'll see like memory card program. Well, that's not available because it's an emulator. It can't have a memory card. There we go. Actually, I want to just go here and click start and do a shutdown on it. All right, folks. So that's how you do it. That's how you can get these cheap wiTech models. Uh, you can get these around, I think they're around 120 bucks or something. Um, where the genuine Chrysler one is like, it's like $3,000 plus, right? And so for a guy that occasionally needs to work on a Chrysler, or the home guy, he just can't afford that kind of money. So these little Chinese clone ones will work. There seems to be a lot of confusion about getting DRB3 to work on these. I found that it works with all of these. Um, and there's not like a lack of a K-line communication or whatever. You just have to use that enhanced DRB3. There may be some out there that do support the regular DRB3s still. But I don't know which ones or whatever. So I'll put a link to where I got this one down below so that you'll know this one does work the way I showed you it works. So I know this isn't really normal content for my channel. I do a lot of car stuff. I fix a lot of cars and for neighbors and friends and stuff like that. And the main reason I got this is to be able to go in, program keys on Chrysler, program a TIPM on a Chrysler, that kind of stuff. Which I haven't actually done any programming with it yet, so I'm still learning. But this is how you can get the software to work anyway. And let me know if you'd like to see more videos like this on how to do a Ford IDS, Mazda IDS, how to do the GM, GDS, SBS, the Tech to Win. I'm happy to do these kinds of videos. I think there's a real need for it because these are made by people in China, and a lot of their videos and stuff they don't even have any. They don't speak, and all the windows and stuff are in Chinese, right? And so I just thought this would be handy to help some other people out there who are trying to make this work. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. This is Tom, your frugal prepper.